Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I am Justin Stacy.
I'm Nate Thomas.
I'm Josh Matney.
And this week we transition into our Christmas extravaganza part of our season. So we've got 4 episodes lined up for the Christmas season. I'm looking forward to all of them. And Christmas is my favorite season of all time. So of all these seasons, it's my favorite.
Oh.
I would say Halloween. I'm a huge Halloween fan, but really the last part of the year from late September up through end of December, that is my favorite part of the calendar, just because there's so many holidays. It's back to back to back, so many good things to watch. I just love it. Like if I could sleep all year and wake up, that's when I would wake up.
I hear that's pretty much what you do.
No, I don't sleep very much. I wish I could sleep that much.
And there's tons of great holiday movies during this time besides the typical Elf. You got Silent Night, Deadly Night, Black Christmas, Die Hard.
Yeah, Christmas classics right there.
They are.
I don't think I've ever watched any of the slasher horror Christmas movies. It just doesn't feel right to me.
The Silent Night, Deadly Night is awful in a good way. Black Christmas is actually good, in a good way.
Yeah. Isn't there one with Goldberg in it?
I never saw that one.
Santa's Sleigh. Yeah.
And then you got Silent Night coming out.
Bill Goldberg plays Santa Claus.
Yeah.
That's funny on a level I can't quite put into words without being offensive.
I remember seeing it in the video stores back when that was a thing. And now it's just
right.
Back when that was a thing, yeah.
What year is this?
I actually miss being able to go to a video store, on the weekend. That was always my Friday activity. After school, get mom to stop by the video store. In Hurley, it was Bob's Prime Time, and pick out either a video or a game. And just being able to see everything spread out and see the displays, I miss that so much.
Yeah, there is a place I used to spend a lot of weekends and holidays with my cousins, and there was this video store that we used to go to and hang out and kind of just go through all the games and videos, try to find stuff to rent. I swear, I think it drove my uncle crazy because we're just how many more movies you going to pick? We don't know.
Yeah. There was a memorable time in our past that I guess we'll never get to live again. There's one Blockbuster that is still open, from my understanding. It's
in Oregon, I think.
It's in Oregon, yeah. And it's privately owned now. They're not a company. They just they basically bought the name of it and kept it as Blockbuster. But I would love. Yes, there is. I've noticed that.
DVDs.
That's odd. I mean, is it successful?
Really a tanning salon. It's really a place to go and get tan
but
salon. They do have
read
movies. I haven't been in it in years because I have this thing called the internet, so I can stream.
Right. Yeah.
But I like that it's still open. It's kind of cool.
It is very nostalgia. Anyway, tonight we are talking about the Christmas classics of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer from the 60s and The Grinch from also the 60s. So that is what we're talking about. Please like our content, subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a comment, and share our videos, please. And with that, sit back, relax, put your feet up as we open a bottle of pop culture.
We're gonna talk about some really cool stuff with Josh, Nate, and I. We're gonna blow this thing up. We're gonna talk about the movies you love, and if you don't, well, that's just tough. But we're gonna talk about shows that are awesome. You'll say, whoa, when we talking about Blossom. This will be your one and only stop for everything nerdy in a bottle of pop culture.
All right. So first, let's dive into Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So rewatching this, it is one of those that I typically do watch. When I had cable TV, I probably watched it every year because it was, on that 25 days of Christmas or whatever. And I would, see it on the local stations and watch it. Now, I don't have cable TV anymore, and I haven't for a few years. So it was actually an effort to find this thing. It wasn't streaming anywhere. You could buy it for $10, but there's no way I'm doing that, right? So ended up, watching a VHS quality version on YouTube that somebody's, ripped off and put on there.
I thought the quality was fine.
Yeah.
It was, considering the time it was. I'm sure there's better quality remastered versions of it, but really you don't need that, because if the version you watched as a kid looked like what's on YouTube.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy the rewatch of this thing.
Except, can I just say, I hadn't seen it for 4 or 5 years. I'd kind of forgotten how dark it is.
I thought he was going to say decades
Like-
for a second.
Like, Santa, kind of a jerk.
Oh, everybody
like-
is.
Like
Everybody
the-
is, except for
the
Rudolph
elves-
and the.
When the elves get fired, where do they go? They're slaves.
Mhm.
Like the unwanted toys, the misfit toys.
They got shipped to an island.
Yeah, it's dark.
It is.
You know, the abominable snowman trying to eat them is dark.
The
Yeah,
whole
I-
thing is like so crazy because like after rewatching it as an adult, everybody is a jerk on here, and like the head elf I loved. He was just like, "How dare you want to be a dentist?"
I think that was you.
I was trying to think of a way to describe it badly, and what I come up with was, like a very dark anti-bullying campaign from the 60s, But you're right, Nate. It's so dark that, and there's a lot of things like, let's see, was he the father of Rudolph?
Donner.
Donner. Okay. Donner was.
Gosh, Justin, did you even watch it?
Apparently not. And he made a comment when Rudolph goes missing to his wife.
This is man's
That-
work.
This is man's work. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But again,
What do you do when
2022
you're-
eyes.
What do you do when your son with a weird disability goes missing? You tell your wife to stay home. Is that not what
But I
everybody
wa-
does? I mean, their son who's less than a year old, I might add.
I mean, he literally puts dirt on his nose to hide the.
Yeah. So number one, he's a jerk father. He absolutely is. But you could say in a better way that, honey, you should stay home because this is dangerous. No, you say this is man's work. Like, what the world?
Yeah,
Well, it was
yeah.
the 60s.
It was the 60s. That's
They
right.
come home drunk. They beat their family after a long day at work.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. Again, 22 eyes. But I just found that funny and shocking.
Ugh. But like, all seriousness, like the head elf is probably my favorite character because he was just appalled by
His
the
name
idea
was
of like,
Josh.
how dare you stay out of line?
A dentist.
In all fairness,
he's,
that's
like,
how we
so
all feel
over the
about
top.
villains.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know why I don't remember anything about this movie. Did I watch it? So what the
Well, see, there's this reindeer, and he's born, and oddly enough, he's got a red nose that shines, and it makes a whistling sound.
He's a freak.
Yeah, freak.
the elf's name? What was his name?
Herbie.
Herbert.
Herbie.
Herbie.
Okay,
yeah.
so Herbie wanting to be a dentist, was that like a popular job in the 60s that everybody wanted to be, or if you wanted to be a dentist, were you seen as an outcast in the 60s? Why did they choose a dentist?
He didn't want to make toys. That's what
Well, I
made him
know-
an outcast.
I know that, but
But
why
it
didn't he choose the dentist role? Like I thought, I want to be a rock star, or I want to be, a doctor or something that's not a dentist. It's just so specific.
A dentist can be a doctor.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying it's oddly specific that he wants to be a dentist. Now maybe
Yeah.
it's because he wants to be able to work on. He works on the doll's teeth in the show,
Yeah.
so maybe that's the reason why. But I just found it interesting that they chose dentist. Because who really wants to be a dentist? As a kid, I don't know of anyone that ever wanted to be a dentist.
Well, I mean, I know this won't be a concept that you'll like, but dentists make a lot of money.
Mhm.
So I can
And I'm
see
pretty
why
sure
people
it's-
would want to be one.
Yeah. And
I
I don't
guess
think
that's true.
slave labor is the ideal lifestyle for some people.
No, I can understand not wanting to be an elf. Like, I get
Whoa,
that.
whoa. We do not like that term.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. So it was an interesting movie. I mean, it's a timepiece movie for sure.
Well,
Oh yeah.
But I mean, there's so much, bullying. Really, the story of Rudolph itself, not the movie, but just the actual nursery rhyme story or Christmas story. You've got bullying in there too. The reindeer wouldn't let him play any reindeer games. And it's because he's different. And I thought that was an interesting message to come out. Now, the story's obviously older than this movie. The
But not
first
by
movie
much.
the first movie that I was thinking of that I remember watching, it was a cartoon version of Rudolph, and it was actually from the late 40s.
Mm.
So, I mean, it at least dates back that far.
But Rudolph is a last century creation.
Hmm.
Yeah, Rudolph, the Grinch, and Frosty are all modern, within the last 100 years,
Right.
and they're they're all created to sell stuff.
Mhm.
Right. Well, I mean, I honestly think that most of our Christmas characters at this point is that. Santa Claus looks completely different now than what it used to. I think Coca-Cola shaped Santa Claus more than anything has shaped
did.
Santa Claus.
Mhm.
Well, and Macy's back in the 1930s.
And Macy's. Yep. Because before, it would have been more of the religious looking St. Nicholas. And that's actually my favorite, like, Christmas dolls that you can get with Santa Claus. My favorite ones are the ones that, look more like a saint.
Mhm.
I like those the best.
I love like all the Rudolph movies that's ever come out. Like I always like this one because I always love stop motion animation.
I do too. I do too. And I think there's some, really interesting characters in this. I like the, again, I can't think of any names here.
Well, see, when you watch The Assignment, you'll remember details about the show, Justin. See, Josh and I are doing our homework each week. And I want to explain this to the listeners or the viewers. So you have 3 people on the podcast, 2/3 of them are showing up and doing their part. The other guy's just pressing record on his camera. And I'm not going to name names.
That's right.
But
That's
Nate
right.
and Josh are doing the work. And the other guy, Justin Stacy, is kind of just here because of his good looks and charm, I guess.
Yeah. That's.
You know you're coming to a roast tonight.
I did not know that, but apparently I am.
I love Yukon Cornelius. By the way,
That is who I was trying to
that's
think
you.
of. Yukon.
You're Yukon Cornelius.
Yeah.
I mean, because your red beard.
Silver and gold.
The red beard. That's what I thought. When the head elf, I was like, that's Josh Matney.
Yeah. When
I did. And when I watched the red beard, I was like, it's Justin. I don't know who I am in the Rudolph. I don't know. I'll be Burl Ives as the fat snowman, I guess. But
So it's funny when I was coming up with the characters for the cartoon, I was thinking that I want to be Yukon, or I need to be Yukon because it's me. It looks like me. But then I don't know. I ended up deciding that I should be the snowman, and I think it's because of the first idea I had for the scripted cartoon part was me talking as a snowman. And it's
Right.
sort of like the opening of Rudolph.
do.
How there's the because you watched it, right? And I didn't. But there's the
do you
newspaper. and he-
remember the opening? I think is the quote.
That's right. There's the newspaper, and he talks about the winter storm and all that. That was my first idea of what we were going to do for a scripted cartoon. Then I
cool.
threw that out the window. So based on time crunch,
Yeah.
I threw that out the window. So yeah. So what else we got for this movie or
I
this
think
show?
the story for Rudolph, I'm just going to be honest with you, I think it's kind of weak.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's you know, we know the song. There's Dancer and Dasher and da 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 da. But one that you recall, yeah, da 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 da. That's my version of Rudolph. Nate sings the hits apparently.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah, but the song's over, and they're like, "Well, we've got this hour we need to fill to do this TV special." So it's a long way to go to get to Rudolph Saves the Day. Like, there's not much story in his nose glows. He's an outcast. It's foggy. He saves the day. So there's a lot of fluff. I mean, it's fun to watch. But overall, I watch it, and again, it's almost 60 years old. You watch it, and you go, "This is fun."
Yeah, I feel like there's some parts, as much as we like Yukon, he was probably not necessary for the story, and the beast is not necessary for the story. That's just fluff.
The lion with wings, that was weird.
That was weird, but it was interesting that he was the king of that Misfit Toys kingdom. So I thought that was kind of cool. I wonder if they pulled that from Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
I'd bet you anything.
I bet you anything they did. So that was kind of cool. But at the end of the day, it is a story of acceptance, of not bullying, and accepting people who are different, and for them to accept themselves and to want to be something that they're told they shouldn't be. With the elf per se. I think that's the moral of the story. It's pretty simple. And I think that's a really good message, especially, coming from something out of the 60s. It's a really good message. I did read a critique, and it was like a bullying coach, whose profession, I guess, is to stop bullying. And he basically said that it's not as noble of a message as we think, because in the story, Rudolph doesn't really get accepted until Santa Claus needs him.
Yeah. It's not that they quit bullying, they could use him.
They could use him. So when you're useful, then people accept you. And that was the critique he gave. It was like, that's actually the message.
Also reality.
It is reality. Unfortunately, it is reality. That's real world.
Isn't that kind of weak here for me? No, I'm kidding.
I mean, you all have been bullying me all night, so.
I'd tell you I'm sorry, but I'm not. So I'd like to apologize, but I don't want to.
I'd like to, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Just do your political apology. Just do a politician apology or something.
That's right.
Sorry if my statements offended anyone in the arena. Strive to be better.
Yeah. Just read from the monitor. Read. Oh, but all in all, it's a fun Christmas movie to watch.
I'd show it to my kids.
Oh yeah.
I mean, probably not this year, because Corbin's not quite 1. Is that right?
He'll be 1 in next month. Yeah.
So maybe next Christmas he'd be able to sit and
this
watch
month.
it.
Technically, it's already December. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, all these, I love these style of films that came out during the 25 days of Christmas, like just this style of animation. I just loved, and I would love.
I agree.
It's just one of those things. I feel like it's not very popular anymore, and only so many I feel like really appreciates it anymore, because it's so easy to use well, it's not easy, but it's easier to go the CGI route now.
It is,
and cheaper.
Yeah.
The Rankin Bass model. What was it? This Year Without a Santa Claus. There are 3 or 4 that are all in this model.
Yeah, there's the
all
Baby
fun
New Year's. I can't remember what the title of the movie, but that falls in with it as well. The Little Drummer Boy, that's another one.
Oh yeah.
So
So I like it. I'd forgotten it was so dark. I encourage people to watch it.
Yeah, agreed.
And I will say, I thought it was a lot longer than 51 minutes for some reason.
It always feels longer.
Yeah. When I saw that, I'm like, is this all of it? And then after, I'm like, I thought this was a lot longer when I was little. Maybe it was all the commercials.
Right. Probably. It's all the commercials that makes it longer.
And it probably came on with something right behind it or right before it.
Yep.
As a kid that we would have watched.
I
remember watching them as a kid, but I don't remember all the details.
Yeah.
Yep, that's true. All right.
Ooh, excuse me.
Let's go ahead and transition over to The Grinch. So The Grinch Stole Christmas from the 60s, Dr. Seuss. There's a pop. That's a really cool pop.
I had to order this one. I couldn't find it.
Is that a model from the 60s, or is that the latest movie?
I think this is from the movie in what, 2019, 2020?
Yeah, it looks like the animation of that.
But I love the look of this Grinch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, I only get my Christmas pops out. Guess what? At Christmas time. So I thought I have to show this one off. Look at the quality of that sucker.
That's really good.
Well,
it is.
sculpted.
That's really nice pop.
Probably the only good thing that came out from the movie.
Maybe so. I never saw that one.
It's awful.
I
mean,
actually,
it's not awful,
I actually liked it. I mean, not as much as the other ones, but I liked that it had a different story than just your typical How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I don't even think that it was titled that. It was called The Grinch, wasn't it?
It is called The Grinch.
Yeah. So I believe it was more of a prequel or something. It was a different story.
Yeah,
I appreciated
it had a prequel-ness to it. I just thought it was kind of boring. Like, he wasn't as mean as all the other ones. He was kind of like more tamed. He
wasn't very Grinchy.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
I feel like after you watch the 1960s and Jim Carrey version, like, it was so much tamed compared to, in comparison.
But I do think that we've entered an era of movies where, regardless of how bad the villain's supposed to be, they want to make a movie to make them good. The Joker, for example. Like, we need a movie where we relate to them and we root for them. And I think that's what
I rooted for that movie to be over. I hated that movie.
Really? I loved it.
I hated it. Of course, I don't like Joaquin Phoenix, but that's a talk for another day.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Well, I really enjoyed it. But anyway, to The Grinch, like, this is a classic story. I think everybody probably...
1966, baby. Still holds up.
I think everybody knows the story. I mean, you may even know the story without even watching the movie because of the book, right? And I think this is one of Dr. Seuss's more notorious books with The Grinch.
I think, wasn't it written for television before it was ever a book?
I don't know.
Am I remembering that correctly? I may have made that up. I do that.
I just assumed they were all books first.
I assumed the same. Yeah. I remember reading that he wrote, I think it was a book simply because the backstory was he wrote this story in response to just being frustrated during the Christmas season year after year of it being more and more commercialized.
Oh, I'd like to know what he's writing today.
No.
And, yeah, me too. I would love to know, like, the Grinch would be more hardcore. He's going around killing people probably.
There is a horror movie coming out.
There is.
Ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, so I'll probably watch that one.
All those things.
I'll probably watch that one. But and I think again, we're general theme here. It is, you have someone, the Grinch, who is an outcast, doesn't look like anybody else. In the Jim Carrey version, you got more of a prequel of, he was actually bullied, and that he become hardened because he was bullied. I don't know that you get that in the Dr. Seuss story.
Well, that's not the way it was written. That was to appease Jim Carrey.
Right, exactly.
Where Jim Carrey could once again play Jim Carrey, just under 45 pounds of makeup.
Agreed. He is that type of actor.
Not a fan.
But at the same time, he did mold the Grinch into like the Universal Grinch that Universal Studios. That is the Grinch that they act. Is that type?
Is it?
It's basically just
and
it's the same. It's hilarious too.
I was down there at Christmas time seeing it, but I don't remember that.
It's the same costume, and they obviously don't get Jim Carrey, but they have actors to play a version that very much mimics Jim Carrey. Yeah.
And they do a good job because when we were there a couple years ago and we got to see the Grinch there, I mean, it was almost spot on.
It's hilarious. If you want to, he has a TikTok, so I think it's the official Grinch or something like that. Watch it. It is hilarious. Like, it's great. But again, we did not watch that movie. We're talking about the 60s version.
I'm not watching that movie, just for the record. I'm not watching that one again.
It's good. I'm telling you, it's
No,
good.
it's not.
Yeah. But yeah,
Also, I'm with that guy.
1960s, like it's such everything from the animation to like the music to the voice. It's everything is done well on this. And it's
Well,
so good.
The music, the whole song is "You're terrible. You're
Yeah.
the worst."
you're a mean
Whoever
one.
wants to have a song sung about the main character where you're the worst? It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It is. It is. And they, they kind of sing the song throughout the entire show and they add more lyrics as it goes along.
Right.
I didn't remember how much of a musical this was. There was so much music in it, so I didn't remember that part.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
It's such a interesting, like the Grinch has like, he's so iconic but he does become kind of like a good person or whatever you want to call it at the end.
Yeah.
But like, to me, he was just like kind of just misunderstood, just kind of the outcast because he looked different. But he also like had a dog that he loved, even though he kind of treated him a little bad.
He did whip the dog 3 times during the cartoon.
Yeah.
He hit the dog with the whip 3 times. That makes you a villain in my book.
Oh yeah.
Nate, what in the world are you doing?
Talking to you guys about the Grinch. Why do you ask?
Not you, the other Nate.
Don't mind me, guys. I'm just redecorating.
What does he mean by that?
Have a good show, fellas.
What the crap was that?
Well, what a sleazeball.
Hey, I take offense to that.
Anyway, let's get on with the show.
I like, because I'm going to show my age, I love that the voice of the Grinch is Boris Karloff.
Yes.
The guy who played Frankenstein's monster in the Universal movies in the 30s and 40s. I love that. I love that the singing voice is Thurl Ravencroft, who we know is the voice of Tony the Tiger from Frosted Flakes. I love that.
That's interesting.
Connection across the years. Now, you don't see them, you don't know anything about it, but when I think of the Grinch, that's what I think of.
Right.
I know I've been throwing off on Jim Carrey, and he's fine, whatever. I mean, it's a fine film, but the animated Grinch is my Grinch. That's the one that I pick. I mean, Grinch merchandise today, they sell a ton of it. I have two Grinch ties, a Grinch lapel pin that I wear at Christmas time. I've got an inflatable Grinch and Max out in my front yard. It's
the Grinch is basically on par with like Frosty, Rudolph.
It is a Christmas classic, like I said.
Next to Santa.
It is. It really is. And it is interesting that this kind of is the first villainous character that people identify with and really root for, probably more than the Who. Like the Who annoy me.
The Who is very a symbol for capitalism at its, greediest, I guess. Not greediest, but
that was part of the point of the story is the Who, that it's too commercialized, that Christmas, and the Grinch thinks that it's all about the presents, that they're celebrating the presents and the trees and all that stuff, which is why he wants to take it away. He's very vindictive about that. And that was, again, back to the point of the story of Dr. Seuss writing it, is he felt the same way. He was like, I wish we could take these things away, so I'm going to make this character to actually take them away. But the joyful thing about the story, the light part about the story, is that when he does take it away, it doesn't faze them. They still celebrate Christmas, which is what shocks him and makes his heart grow, right? So he changes. So basically, Dr. Seuss is giving us a world that's not realistic, that would not happen. That would not happen in today's world, in today's America, but it does in the Dr. Seuss land in Whoville. It happens there, and it is the joy. It is the joy and the message of Christmas, and that's really the wonderful part of the Grinch story. Is it has a good ending, and even the Grinch has the conversion too. And that's a wonderful thing. So I appreciate this story greatly because we get to see and again, even when the Grinch was at his worst, I was identifying with him because I feel the same way about the commercialization of Christmas. I dislike. I like decorations. I like the Christmas trees. I like all of that. I do not like the presents, the overemphasis of presents. I don't mind, buying loved one gifts, whatever, but the overemphasis on gifts, the overemphasis on the making profit during Christmas, and just over marketing and just all of that really grinds my gears. So I identify greatly with the Grinch.
I think because like where Dr. Seuss or whatever the guy's name is, like I forget what his real name is, but like because he put so much of his personal like feelings into this story, I feel like it stands out among all the other ones. Like I'm not saying there aren't any other ones that he didn't put any sort of personal.
I would bet that most of his stories probably are reflections of his own beliefs.
Yeah,
like there's a Dr. Seuss story, and I forget which one it is. I'm sure you're going to blast me for not knowing every Dr. Seuss story. It's the one where he's like environmentally conscious.
Oh, the Lorax.
The Lorax, that's it. The Lorax. And I would bet that that's a personal belief of his.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah. What else you got, Nate, of this? Your movie.
I love The Grinch from 1966. I love it. It's 26 minutes long. It's a sitting. Sit and watch it.
Yep.
I do often think you could put a twist on it. When the Who's get up and they discover their Christmas stuff is gone, they go and they gather around the tree and they chant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're singing something. I don't know what it is. You could say they're chanting. They're not really singing. They're chanting for more Christmas. If you wanted to be cynical, which I'm not. I do like how the Grinch, I love that when the Grinch's heart grows. I read something one time that said we just on screen watched a guy have a massive heart attack and he smiled before he turned. I'm like, that's crazy talk. But I like the story that he's touched by their hearts. It's a sweet story. It's harmless. Nobody gets hurt. It's a good story. It might be my favorite of the Christmas stories of the animated stuff.
Right. That's interesting.
In fact, it probably is.
Also, I think you've probably seen it more. And again, I'm going to bring up Jim Carey. So, punch me in the face, Nate. But I think you see it more in the Jim Carrey movie, but I think you'd also see it here, is that the dog Max is sort of the Grinch's conscience.
He's Jiminy Cricket.
He's Jiminy Cricket. He really is. He tries to get the Grinch to stop and do the right thing many times. He just never will until the end.
Max is a cool character.
Yeah. It's a nice balance between Grinch's sort of like greediness, selfishness, and grumpiness, and then you got Max, who's just like kind of like calm, collected, and in the right.
Mm-hmm. It's also an interesting dynamic that you have a pet owner relationship where they have two different really worldviews, beliefs, and one who is obviously on the side of the moral side and the other is not, yet they are still in a relationship. That's probably the most important message in 2022.
It could be. I don't know that I was going to go that far.
I went there.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, but
that's good.
I hadn't thought about that up front. Like I just pulled that one out, and I was like, you know what, it fits. Let's say it.
I will say, if you want to contrast the two, the 2000, 2001, whatever it is, the live action Grinch, I do love how you get some of the stuff with the Grinch in his lair where he's like, hate, double hate. I love the grumpy old man version of the Grinch. And that's what it was.
Yeah.
I can quote that movie so much shamelessly, and I'm not ashamed. I'm just saying, like, I love it.
I also like the prequel elements in that movie that you get, and it's played by the actor. He passed away not long after, I think, but he played Timmy in the show, in the soap opera Passions. I'm sure you're going to blast me now because I know this, but he played the little boy. Yeah, he was the assistant to the witch in Passions, and I'm trying to think of her name. I don't remember. Tabitha, maybe.
Sure.
Sure.
I think that's right.
I think it's right. So apparently, I know more about Passions than I do Rudolph.
I didn't notice that.
It's fine.
Are you an 85-year-old woman? Is that what you're saying? Don't want to miss your stories now.
You called me.
Who truly is the oldest
back
person
in
of
my
the group?
day?
I mean, this is I remember when Passions came on and thinking, man, I'd like to watch that if it was on in the evenings because you work during the day. But I never did get to watch it. It wasn't on that long.
It wasn't on that long. I got to watch it because I was in school dinner time. Mom would usually record it on VHS so that she could watch it in the evenings. So then I got to watch it. And the fact that it was paranormal related, that was a more interesting soap opera than your day run of the mill Days of Our Lives. Although I did watch a lot of Days of Our Lives, we could probably do a podcast on it.
Oh,
I'd rather not, but
it's been a long time since I watched any of those.
The only reason I know about Passion is because it started showing up on Sci-Fi one day because I was a big Sci-Fi Channel fan, and then I was like, "What the hell is Passions?" And then I was like, why is this on here?"
It was something. It really was. But anyway, this is not a soap opera or Passions podcast, so
I'd be okay if we ever tried that, though.
It would be interesting because I do know quite a bit about Passions and Days of Our Lives. Days of Our Lives mostly. That was Mom's favorite thing. And
Passions ran for 8 years.
Oh, that's a lot longer than what I thought.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's interesting. But,
I had to look it up.
Anyway, any other final thoughts on The Grinch before we wrap up?
Nah, it's a classic.
It is. It's a classic, and marketing wise, it's up there with Mickey Mouse or anything you can think of. It is.
We have a guy who comes around to events in Tazewell, full Grinch costume. He showed up when the ice skating rink opened the other night. He'll be on Main Street for the market on Saturday. He shows up. He interacts with people. He's kind of a pest, but man, he'll take pictures for hours with people. Loves it.
Cool. That's really cool. I've always thought that, if I ever owned a comic book store or toy store or whatever, during the Christmas season, where you have Santa Claus come and greet the kids, I would want the Grinch.
Yeah.
I would do obviously Santa Claus too, but the Grinch.
When we were at Universal, when we were doing the pictures with the Grinch, he was actually coming back from a break when we were in line. So he walks through, he does the Jim Careys, hey, coming through, MVP here, and he just walks by everybody, and then if he sees you trying to take pictures from the window, he'll walk up to the window and go stop doing that, he gets really into the character. It's hilarious.
I approve.
Agreed. All right, so next week we are going to be tackling the movies Home Alone 1 and 2. So that will be our next journey into the Christmas movies. And, these are movies I probably don't even need to rewatch. I know them by heart, and I love them. Definitely some of my favorites. I can remember watching Home Alone 1 as a kid at the theater at Richlands, the Roses Shopping Center. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I watched it to begin with. And that was probably 90 or 91 when it came out. So
probably one of the few times where I think the sequel is funnier than the original.
I like them both equally, but I think the sequel has a lot of very funny parts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of the first one, but I will watch it.
Very good. All right, good stuff. Well, closing quotes. I have a quote here from The Grinch. And I think this maybe has been in every Grinch movie, and it's from the book. So originally, this is Dr. Seuss quote. Maybe Christmas doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a little bit more. Bye, everybody.
What the heck? We didn't get a scene on the main show.
Yeah, it looks like Nate is becoming a fan favorite. He's stealing all the airtime.
Oh well, I guess we are just lucky to be on now. But we could have at least a good background instead of this black screen.
Yeah, unfortunately, real life me claims that he has a life and he struggles to make any time for us.
Yeah, real life you sucks.
Hey, I take offense to that.
Of course you do. Anyway, how should we end this thing?
Maybe we could tell a Christmas story.
Great idea. I'll start. 'Twas the night before.
Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. We hope that we were able to entertain you at least for a spell. If you see value in our craziness and want to continue supporting us, please follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our videos, and share our content with someone you may know. Also, let us know how we're doing. Make suggestions for the podcast. Leave us a comment. Heck, send us an email. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on the Bottle of Pop Culture podcast.